So how can I go in and edit this real quick? So I go back to Google Slides. Go to edit. Yeah, I got it. So I got to go to add-on again. Yeah, it's not. Okay. I got it. And get rid of the instructions on the other one. For the matching pairs, just get rid of the instructions. Okay, cool. Hey, good morning, students, and happy Thursday to you. Just wanted to reiterate, if you could, please, when you log in, put your first and last name. Looks like we're doing a better job of that. I appreciate it, as that helps with attendance purposes. Awesome. Great to see almost everybody on here. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a link in the chat function. Okay. This is a Nearpod link. So we're going to be trying this today. So what you will do is click on that link, and then you are going to put your name in. You're going to put your name in this, just put your name in there, and then we're ready to go. Okay. So okay. 1 second. We got a little bit of a glitch. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting it. I'm working it. The link's coming here. All right. We've got the new link right here. So if you try this one, you shouldn't need the code. I have nobody in yet. Oh, yeah, I do. Got 11 people in. All right. So those of you that are just joining us, we are using this code that I'm going to share again on the chat to log into a Nearpod that we're going to try today in class. Right now we've got. Are you in? Are you in this? Right now we've got 22 students. That's great. We've got 29 on the or 28 on the Zoom. So a few others waiting for you to join here. I'm going to give you 90 seconds here to join, and then we're going to get started. So if you've already joined, take a sip of your coffee or orange juice or water. I'm up to 25 right now, which is great. Almost got everybody. Again, we've got 25 we've got 29 students on the Zoom, 25 here so far. So we got a couple people, about 45 seconds here. All right, we're up to 27. We're getting close. Looks like we have one person we need to join here, and then we're ready to go. All right, so we're gonna get moving forward here. Excellent. We've got everybody in class. So here's how this is going to work today. I'll have the Zoom on, but first thing we're gonna start off with is a video here that's gonna ask you 5 questions while you watch the video. What we're gonna do is when you respond to the questions in the video, some of them are open-ended questions. Please, don't feel free to type what you want, but you don't need to type more than, let's say, 20 words at the most. And you don't need to use complete sentences. You can just kind of put your thoughts down and move on. The video is about 6 minutes and 14 seconds. I'm going to put a timer on. I want everybody to be done with the video in 10 minutes at the most. So after 10 minutes, then we're going to move on to a poll, and then we're going to play a little game after that, and then do some instruction, and then finish up with going over the answers to the intro, make sure everyone's are correct. All right. So again, 10 minutes the most here, and you're going to watch the video on your own, and we'll be here for questions. Okay, those of you working through this, we're going to wait about 30 more seconds. So if you could try to get your answers in quickly, that would be helpful. We need to move on to make sure we get through class. Got some significance lackers. Shoot. Okay, class, in order to try to get through everything we need to, we are going to move on. I know some people struggle with that last question. In what ways do you see U.S. colonization of native peoples persist today? Um, in what ways, however small, can this be rectified? Well, those are some fancy words. Maybe we rephrase it as what can we do? What could be done to help the native peoples after a lot of their land resources were taken from them by white Europeans who arrived looking for better opportunities. Um, we had people say ban the holiday. Um, some say that they're already organized, more recognition for their struggle. America still takes their things, more opportunities. Some said it was late. A lot of good answers here, though. So if you didn't get a chance to answer, even someone brought up the fact that sports teams are named after them. They could be changed if they don't like it. Get land back, etc. So great job of those of you. We're gonna go ahead and move on. This next one is a poll. All right. And so we want to see if we can get 100% participation here. Should we celebrate Columbus Day or should we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day? This has been a big debate in the United States and even in other areas around Central and South America in the last 10 years. Just becoming more socially aware of what has happened. So, and what Christopher Columbus did when he arrived to the Americas. All right, so still waiting on a few people to vote here. If Mason's out there, we're looking for you to jump in. Cardi, Egypt, Christopher, Abby, and John. Think about this one. Should we celebrate or should we celebrate Columbus Day or something else? So, got a few more answers here. Lana. Just a reminder, this is how you're getting your participation points for the day as well, by just clicking on a button with what you think. So let's see if we can get everybody to participate. Uh, Mason, you're right. Sorry, you do have 2 in there. That's what's confusing me as well. Thank you. Strange. Egypt and Cardi, you out there? John, thank you. All right, so as our class, should we celebrate Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day as a class? 63% said Indigenous Peoples Day, 13% said both. 2 people said, or 3 people said not sure, and 1 person said we should just celebrate Columbus Day. So the background behind that is Columbus is looked at as a national hero for a lot of Central, Southern, or South American, and even North American peoples, particularly because a lot of these countries had to gain independence from European countries, and they needed a national figure to organize around. And so that's why Christopher Columbus was picked as that hero a couple hundred years ago, or maybe even as close to 100, 150 years ago in areas like the actual country of Colombia, which was the Grand Colombia. And so history changes though, and people start to gain more perspectives as they do more research. And so it's very interesting, like to even look at your class and see that 63% of you say that, you know what, we should just celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And you're starting to see this become a bit of a trend in the United States. Definitely something I think for you to follow. And I think it's also important, you know, on a day like today, after what happened yesterday, for us to recognize that change can happen. Change is good. And that, you know, even in our own society, we obviously need change. So I'm not going to go any further than that. All right, this last activity is supposed to be a fun one for you. So this is what it's called, pairs. So what you're going to do is click on a definition or a word, and then click on the word or definition that it pairs to. Some of them will pair to a actual picture. We've talked about most of these, but the 1 or 2 we haven't talked about, I'm going to go through in some direct instruction here after we're done. And then I'll go over the intro and we'll be done for the day. So you have 2 minutes to try to pair all these up. See if you can get them in 6 out of 6. Good luck. Go. Are you actually doing it? Are you no? Are you just taking notes on? Good. Keep trying until you get all of them. I'll know when you get them all because they go bold on my screen. Okay, so 2 minutes is up. Many of you got close to it here. Almost everybody did. Nice job. So you might have learned what the Treaty of Tordesillas was if you haven't done your video guide yet, or sorry, your intro for the week. We didn't talk too much about the conquistadors yet, but I think you've heard of the word before, and so just kind of a reminder there. What we are going to do now is we're going to move on. I'm going to go ahead and end this session, and we're going to transition here to just taking notes over about 4 or 5 slides. So I need you to get out however you're taking notes, whether you're using the notes chart that I provided, or if you are writing it on a piece of paper, or if you're just going to follow along and then use the slides or write on the slides, that's perfectly fine. But I'm going to give you 1 minute to transition for us to start notes, all right, and finish up the content we need for the week. And then if you want to get your intros handy, if you're not sure on a couple of those answers, I'm going to answer the rest of those as well. Sweet. All right, we were at a minute. So here's where I really need you to try to zone in and focus as best you can here. Thanks for participating in that activity. All right, so Christopher Columbus, we talked about this yesterday. He sparked off basically a race then for the rest of the world to try to colonize these new areas and basically just dominate them to try to find a way to get to the Americas, or sorry, a way to get to the what they thought would be India or the Spice Islands, but reality they were just going to go to the Americas and claim land and try to abuse it for what they could. So the Spanish ended up in Florida. Some of you have heard of St. Augustine. That's the oldest city in the Spanish world in Florida. They took over the Aztecs in 1519, renamed it what is now famously Mexico City, what was originally Tenochtitlan. And then after Ferdinand Magellan's voyage, the Spanish also took the island chain of the Philippines, which is close to Japan, Taiwan, and China. And they took that as a stopping point in order to trade with China, where they took all their silver from the New World and then they'd leave it there, and then they would amass it there to trade for Chinese goods. So that was their part, their land in the Eastern Hemisphere. Ferdinand Magellan, just a little bit of info on him. 1519, he left Spain, Sevilla, the port. He was actually Portuguese. but he was sailing for the Spanish, and he sailed around what is called the Strait of Magellan, which is at the bottom part of South America. And then him and his 5 boats sailed all the way to the Philippines, which would go on the other side of the map, the right part of the map. But he was pretty ruthless, very similar to Columbus, and he was actually killed with a poisoned arrow from while fighting like a war in the Philippines, and his body was thrown overboard and he was fed to cannibals. It was his crew though that would actually finish the voyage, even though they were down to, I believe, 2 of the 5 ships, made it all the way back to Spain. And so that's why they say Magellan was the first to circumnavigate. That means to sail all the way across the world. Now we know it's not true, and that name has made a lot of money. You can use like there used to be GPS systems after that, and there's companies named after him, but he really wasn't all that. I think that he lived up to his name, but for the Spanish, that was a big deal. This would lead then to a big problem. Brazil. If you don't know this, the language spoken in Brazil is Portuguese. I've been there. Okay. And so the reason why they speak Portuguese was because Pedro Cabral founded on accident Brazil. And so to not have a war over who controlled Brazil and South America and then the newfound land of the Portuguese and the Spanish, the Pope jumped in 1494 and said, all right, let's try to solve this peacefully so my 2 great Catholic kingdoms don't go to war. And so the Pope jumped in, and at a town called Tordesillas, which looks like tortillas or tortellini put together, that's the easiest way to remember, there the Pope put what's called a line of demarcation, okay? At the Treaty of Tordesillas, this line is on the map. It's a big black line right here. And basically, if you draw an arrow, I'm going to try my annotation stick. I haven't used this in a while. Let's see how it goes. All right. So basically, anything to this side went to P for Portugal. And anything this way went to S for Spain. Okay. And you can see the line right here. Does everyone see that? So that meant that they wouldn't go to war, and that Portugal got Brazil, Portugal got Africa, their claimings in India through Vasco da Gama. The Spanish, though, got to control from the tip of South America all the way up to California. Almost unbelievable how much they got to control. Okay? Now, clearly, the Pope didn't realize that there were other nations or kingdoms that were going to want to do the exact same thing. Okay, here you can see the line of demarcation in the orange. If you look, and I'm going to try to clear this annotation thing. There we go. All right, that worked better than last semester too. All right, so clearly they were trying to figure out how to fix it. They did, but they didn't take into account that the English only 3 years later, and a guy by the name of Henry Hudson would sail around what is now Canada and what we call the Hudson River Valley, which is like Buffalo, New York area, and in North Canada. And he would claim that Hudson did that in 1609. John Cabot was the one that sailed over to Newfoundland. And so the English would establish their presence on the east coast of North America and in Canada. English got stronger and stronger, and we'll talk about it next week, they used pirate tactics to try to take Spanish gold until they could establish their own colonies. And in 1588, do you remember Bloody Mary? She was one of the wives of Henry VIII. She was the one that came back and killed a lot of the people that he gave land to after his divorces. Well, Bloody Mary died of cancer, if you remember right, and her sister, Queen Elizabeth, was then supposed to marry her husband, or Mary's widow, Philip, but she did not want to marry a Catholic Spanish king. So she said, I'm good. I don't want to do that. And Philip sent the entire Spanish Armada, which Armada is the word for a lot of ships, to England, where a bunch of them got washed up into the rocks. And essentially, this was the end of the Spanish 100 years of dominance. It's called the Siglo de Oro, the Golden Age of Spain. And after this, you'll see the Spanish Empire kind of, even though it's massive, it's never nearly making as much money as it was. The British also took from Spain then in the Caribbean. So a lot of islands around the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, Jamaica, even on the coast of northern South America were British colonies. And the British, to pay for all this, used like middle class or noblemen, people who had money. They invested in this company called the British East India Company. And then the government let them go and explore and do whatever they wanted and mistreat the natives. And as long as they came back with profits the government could tax, they were okay with it. The Dutch would do that as well. All right, we got to kind of hustle here. I apologize. We're down to 5 minutes. The French, some of this will ring a bell because that's why a lot of the rivers around here and lakes and the Great Lakes are named after French explorers, because the French would explore the Great Lakes first, and then the French were the first to sail down the Mississippi River. And if they got to the bottom of it where it emptied into the Gulf of Mexico, they called it New Orleans. Orleans is a major city in France, and New Orleans was kind of like New Mexico. And supposed to be and that's kind of why you have a lot of French influence there today. And obviously the French would control the interior of North America. And if you haven't heard about it, the United States bought that from Napoleon when Napoleon was broke, trying to fight wars against every European nation in the early 1800s. Called the Louisiana Purchase. All right. And the French made their money off of fur trading. There used to be a lot more animals around here. Trust me. All right. Last but not least, then, the Dutch. The Dutch also explored into Canada and the Great Lakes, but they were the third ones to get there. They were the first ones to claim New York, where they called it New Amsterdam. But the English bought it from them and renamed it New York. York is a city in England. And the Dutch turned their attention to really where they made all their money, and that was Indonesia. And so they stole the Spice Islands from the Portuguese in 1602. The Portuguese Empire didn't last very long either. And the Dutch would, in the 1600s, make a filthy profit off of trading with Indonesia and Japan. They were the first ones to explore Australia. They claimed a colony on the tip of South Africa called South Africa, or the Cape Town Colony. And they created what's called the first joint stock company in the world, which is essentially the Dutch East India Company. They made their own coins. Shareholders who lived in the Netherlands could buy shares of this company, and then they would receive dividends. So basically, whatever this company made money on, and however they did, they could use their own army, their own soldiers. It was a really crazy setup. But the joint stock company is the kind of the precursor to the stock market that we have today, that you hear about in the news. And we still use the same system to this day for business. So there's kind of an interesting tidbit for you. All right. I know that was quick. These slides are on Canvas for you to use tomorrow. We're going to play a Kahoot tomorrow for review, which should be pretty fun. Also then, I wanted to pop up just real quick here the intro. Mr. Renshaw, can you see that? All right, so I wanted to go over a few answers here that I didn't get to cover in the intro. So number 9, the Americas were named after Amerigo Vespucci, who was a map maker. who coined the term Americas, and it stuck. Amerigo, America. All right. Cortez and the Spanish defeated the Aztecs. They did it with very few conquistadors. And we'll talk about the story next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. But when they took over the Aztec Empire, they did so with very few men, and they basically used the Aztec enemies against them. The Inca were defeated by the conquistador Francisco Pizarro in 11, basically because they spread disease, European diseases like smallpox and measles, and a lot of Inca died off, and Inca were also in the Civil War when Pizarro showed up, so that he used that to his advantage. Last but not least, 12. I noticed a lot of you turn in your intros already missed these, so I wanted to mention that in 12, it is the Dutch, the French, and the English who rivaled the Portuguese and the Spanish pretty quickly after the discovery of the New World. Okay, the Dutch, the French, and the English. So the bell's going to ring here shortly. I just, again, wanted to make sure I gave you a chance to go over these. Feel free to leave. Thanks so much for all of your participation today. You guys were wonderful, and great class period, all right? So stay on if you have a question. If not, have a great day, and get your intro turned in, please, by 10:30.